Thank you for listening to this teaching from Casa Baptist Church, located in Garland, Texas. Our mission is to love God, build relationships, and change the world. To learn more, visit casaviewbaptist.org.
My name is Ekaterina Hazelden, and I'm from the former Soviet Union. I grew up in a poor and dysfunctional family. After my father went to prison, my mother left and she never came back. My sister and I, we were left to fend for ourselves. We kept wandering the streets until we were put into an orphanage. Some orphanages were nice, others, teachers were mentally and physically abusive. In the year of 2000, missionaries began to enter my orphanage. They told us how I can pray to God anytime and He would hear me. And one of those missionaries was Operation Christmas Child. I still remember the day I received my shoebox. It was a beautiful sunny day. As I began to open my shoebox, I discovered a coloring book and markers. I was 12 years old and I was just so excited about those items because I love to color. I began to hope for a family that would come and take me in as their own into their family. Years went by and no one seemed to be interested. I began to give up on God. Until one day, a social worker called me over and said, "Girls, I don't know how, but both of you are getting adopted and you are going to America." In that moment, I knew with God, all things are possible. God not only blessed me with good Christian parents, but He also blessed me with loving husband, 2 children, and we enjoy packing shoe boxes as a family. Those simple shoe boxes bring so much hope and joy to the children around the world like me. In Jesus' mighty name.
You will never know this side of eternity what a little box with toys is going to mean to a child on a continent that you'll never meet. But this I know, when that box is handed out, the kid's going to hear about Jesus and about how God loves them. One of the easiest ways that you will ever witness for Jesus is just filling up a simple shoebox. We have boxes up here. You can take them home with you. For those that have never done it, don't seal the box. The boxes are opened at the warehouse. Not to take things out of it, but to be frank with you, they're checked to make sure that everything's on the up and up. There's some instructions in there and how you can give a check, donation to cover the expense of shipping the box. As happens every year, there are a few people that can't afford the shipping costs for a box, and there are a few people that give more to ship boxes for other people that can't afford it. Now, the boxes need to be brought back here to the church by what date? The first week of November, make sure your boxes are here, okay? If there are any late boxes, my wife and I are providing food for one of the groups that's up the chain, and I can always get them on the last truck out of Dodge. I'd rather not do that, but anyway. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In my opinion, who cares about my opinion? You will find when you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke that there are a lot of the exact phrases and exact words in Matthew as there is in Mark and Luke. Matter of fact, there's exact things from Mark and Matthew, exact things from Mark and Luke. So if A equals B and A equals C, then B equals C, that means A must be a source document. So the truth about it is Mark probably was written before Matthew or Luke. Mark doesn't deal with the genealogies. Mark is about demonstrating something about Jesus that's very real and very tangible. You can divide Mark in half. You can read the first 8 chapters and then from chapter 9 and on, and there's a unique difference in the two sides of the book. The first half of the book of Mark is really about Jesus' authority. Probably most people don't understand the greater the authority a person has, the greater responsibility comes with it. Probably one of the worst mutations of life is when people have authority and they use that to hold it over people. Matter of fact, when the people were clamoring for a king and Samuel went to the people and he said, God told me to tell you that if you go for a king, if you want a king, an earthly king is going to want you to do this. He's going to want your children. He's going to raise your taxes. He's going to want your animals. He's going to want your daughters. Da, 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 da. But God wants for you. One of the most difficult things in life, in the human unregenerate mind and heart, is when a person has authority, to understand that authority brings about some significance. There's some things that Jesus had authority over. How about the calling of the disciples in Mark chapter 1, verses 16 through 20? As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net in the lake, and they were fishermen. Come and follow me, and I will send you out to be fishers, to fish for people. You notice Jesus didn't say, hey, how about you guys come and follow me? The word for come is actually a command. He said, hey, come, follow me, and this is what I'm going to make you to become. I'm going to make you to become fishers of men. Jesus not only called with authority, Jesus taught with authority. In the book of Mark chapter 1, verse 22, the people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Most of the teachers of the law used the Socratic method, which was, I'm going to ask you a question to make you think, and I'm going to lead you to answer questions in a way that I want, as a way of learning. Jesus stood in front of them and said, you think God is like this, but I tell you, God is like this. He would open up the Bible and say, this means that you and I should. He taught with authority. People were amazed. The teachers of the law actually looked at him and said, wow, he not only knows what he's talking about, but he's very commanding with it. How about Mark chapter 3, verses 11 and 12, where Jesus removes demons with, once again, authority. Whenever the impure spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, you are the Son of God. But he gave them strict orders not to tell others about him. Jesus actually removed demons and then commanded them what they would do as they left. He had authority. Jesus has authority over the world of darkness. How about this? Jesus has the authority to forgive sins in Mark chapter 2, verses 9 and 11. Which is easier to say to this paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or to say, go take up your mat and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to do what? To forgive sins. Most people do what with sin? Honestly, most people hold sin over people's head. Have you ever blown it and everybody remembers that you blew it? Have you ever met somebody that wants to remind you that you blew it, when you blew it? I've got kids from high school that remember what I was like in high school, and I talk to them, and they go, "You're a pastor?" Yeah, that's what really? Remember when you took your Jeep and tried to jump the Wolf River in it? Dino, you did some stupid things back then. Are you still doing stupid things? And it depends on if my wife is overhearing the conversation. Her head's still nodding, We all want to do things that are probably not the smartest and bright and best thing. Have you ever noticed, though, that that's what people usually remember? But notice, Jesus looked at him, and it was a question of who had sinned to cause a man to be crippled. And Jesus said, why does it matter? If I want to heal him physically, I can do that. But if it's because of sin, I can forgive that sin, and I have the ability to do that as well. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that said, there's nobody that can help me. I'm too far gone. I've done too much. And the question is, how much authority did Jesus get on the cross when he died? Because Jesus was totally pure, therefore he is the total propitiation, substitute payment for our sin. How about this? Jesus judged the law with authority. Notice verse 27, he said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man made for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is even Lord over the Sabbath. God had authority over the law because why? He made the law. Jesus so many times said, he that has seen me has seen the Father, for I and the Father are one. Therefore, when the law was made, Jesus was there and had a voice in it and had a say in it. He had authority over the law. Jesus had authority over nature. The disciples and Jesus were in a boat. The disciples were scared they were going to drown. The boat was sinking, taking on water. Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, be quiet, be still. The wind died, and it was completely calm. There's two significant events there. Number one, to make the wind die, I can't do that. If you were to take a glass of water and you twist it, it's going to make one of those vortexes in the water, right? You with me? Or a jug, spin it like this, and the water's going to turn. And when you stop turning it, the water does what? The water immediately stops, doesn't it? No, it continues on. Notice the two significant events of authority. Not only did the wind respond, but the water stopped. The first time my children went to the beach, we made sandcastles, and as the tide was coming in, they did their best to stop the tide from hitting the sandcastle. Matter of fact, they made a moat, and then they laid down in the moat, and then they stacked themselves on top of the moat. And guess what? You can't stop nature. Yet even nature itself is obedient to the authority of Jesus. Jesus healed with authority. Mark chapter 9, verse 33. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet. This is the woman with an issue of blood, trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. She said, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. Jesus had the authority to physically heal people. Jesus had authority over death. When they laughed at him, he put them out, and he took the child, the father and mother, and the disciples who were with him, and he went in to where the child was, and he took her by the hand and said to her, Tabitha Kume, which means, little girl, get up. And immediately the girl stood up and began to walk. She was 12 years old, and they were completely, what? Astonished. Jesus goes in the house, and people are mourning because the child is dead. And Jesus said, don't worry about it. I got that covered. And they laughed. I wonder if the laughter was still continuing when Jesus walks out of the room and Tabitha is holding him by the hand. I'm sure the people stopped laughing and they went, whoa, 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 what happened? What I want you to do is I want to paint you a picture and help you understand that there is nothing in all of our existence that Jesus doesn't have authority over. Matter of fact, in the book of Mark, the word immediately is used more than in any other book of the Bible. And immediately he stood up. Immediately he breathed. Immediately the bone was healed. Immediately they left their nets and followed. Immediately the waves stopped. Immediately the wind stilled. No other book in the Bible is it used more. The immediate response to authority. I want you to understand that. Yet the second half of the book predicts Jesus' death and suffering. You see, it doesn't equate that this person should have such authority, and now he says he is going to suffer and face death. In the first half of the book, when the demons tried to identify Jesus in Mark 1:25, 1:34, 3:11, and 5:7, Jesus said, shh, don't tell anybody why I'm here. Jesus commanded people who were healed not to tell anybody about it. In 1:44, 5:43, 7:36, and 8:26, he said, listen, I know that I've healed you, but don't tell anybody about it. Usually with people with authority, with pomp and circumstances, bow out their chest and demand to be saluted. But yet the man with the greatest authority is going, Jesus warns his disciples not to disclose that he is the Messiah in Mark 8:30 and 9:9. Why the secret? Why does he spend half of the book demonstrating he has authority, but shh, we don't want the word to get out? In Mark 8:31, he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. That is the transitional statement in the book of Mark. The reason becomes clear. The greatest servant ever known to man would make the greatest sacrifice. When I was studying for a degree in opera, I learned in music theory the word contrapuntal. Contrapuntal. So I want to do an experiment, okay? And we're gonna like turn this into music class just for a minute, okay? This is important, okay? La 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 la. Over here. La, 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 la. Now your group are going to go, la, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, la. Now do it. You ready? Okay. Is that easy? When you hear the other person going, it's the same scale, the same notes, there's no difference. One of you is going from the bottom to the top, and the other one's going from the top to the bottom, contrapuntally. That means that the two are opposed to each other. The greatest contrapuntal movement of all of history was the man with the greatest authority also was the greatest servant. Do you see the contrapuntal nature of that? The person with the greatest authority in the culture usually is the person that has the most, gets the most, has the most people listening, the most people following. But Jesus, to be the greatest sacrifice, had to be the greatest authority, but became the greatest servant. So when Jesus comes to the disciples and said, "Follow me and I'll make you to become fishers of men," the greatest thing about Jesus was not that he stood above everything, which is awesome, is that because he stood above everything, he was able to give everything that we need. He is everything that we're not. A writer in the New Testament said, like a lamb to the slaughter, he opened not his mouth. He had the right to call the angels, to call the firebrands from heaven. I mean, remember when Joshua was going into Ai and the troops were going to Ai and they looked on the top of the hill and there were chariots of fire, and Joshua told his generals that, "Listen guys, before we go and fight them, we need to find out, are they with us or are they with them?" So Joshua goes up and he said, "Sir, we're going to go fight this town, and before we go, I need to know whose side are you on?" And the angel of the Lord said, "I am neither on your side or there, for I am here on behalf of Jehovah God." Whew. Talk about authority. For even the Son of Man, Mark 10:45, did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. You see, the greatness of the sacrifice is dependent upon the greatness of the authority. I don't think our culture, our world understands that. What Jesus could have done and chose not to. He allowed himself to be put on the cross. He allowed himself to be nailed. As a little kid, I used to watch Superman. And they would take Tommy guns and they would shoot bullets at Superman, and it would hit his chest and the bullets would just pop off. Superman's a kid's fantasy. If a person can look at the winds and say, "Stop," and the wind stopped, do you think for a moment that a nail driven by a hammer from a Roman soldier has the ability to pierce his skin if he doesn't want it to? Really? If you can go to a dead girl whose body is stinking and say, "Tabitha, come forth," live. and the girl starts breathing and walking immediately with no brain damage, do you think for a moment when they pierced his side, Jesus could have gone, forget you? He gave his life as a ransom. So Mark takes the first half of the book to explain the significance of the sacrifice is directly contingent and commensurate with the authority that Jesus had. He did not come to be served. Most people with authority want people to serve them, to salute them. But true authority, the greatest authority of all, understands that that authority is given so that you and I can make a difference in the lives of people that are around us. I must accept Christ's sacrifice. My response. I need to come to the place in my life, we need to come to the place in our life where we accept the fact that Jesus didn't have to, but his sacrifice freed me from sin and it's holding my life. If you're here today and you've never come to the place where you realize that Jesus willingly died for you to take your place, then today you need to say yes. But the book of Mark takes it so much further than that. You see, if the single most important person on the face of the earth who walked with the greatest authority became a servant to give his life, then how must you and I live? So in Mark 8:34, Jesus summons the crowd with his disciples and he said to them, if anyone wishes to come after me, help me out. He must what? Deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. You see, not only is my response to Jesus to accept his forgiveness, my response must be to follow him in obedience. Would put that verse up one more time. If anyone wishes to come after me, once again, the authority of Jesus, he must do what? Deny himself. You say, well, hold up, what about me? Remember, our Savior, the greatest authority, the greatest ability to the wind, to the waves, to death, to hell, to the law, to everything, said, okay, you can kill me now. Jesus Christ took up the cross for us and demonstrated what it means to deny himself. And he denied himself. We must deny ourselves. It's no longer about me. It's no longer what can I get out of this. You and I were placed here for a purpose. To take up our cross. Now, I'll be honest with you, your cross is not to die on the cross. That's been done. Jesus isn't looking for martyrs. He's looking for faithful stewards of his calling. You say, but hold up, Carl. Shelly, if you come on up. What happens if I deny myself, if I decide that it's no longer about me, then how am I going to get my stuff? Oh, guys, You want to talk about getting your stuff? No eye has seen, no ear has heard what God has waiting in store for those of us who believe. I have never seen the godly forsaken or the righteous begging bread, or about those that deny themselves and follow Jesus. And I saw heaven opened. Go and read the descriptions of heaven itself. That's for those people that deny themselves. Jesus further explained in the book of Matthew, he says, whatever you loose here on earth shall be loose, bound in heaven. Whatever you bind here on earth. Need to understand, guys. Life can't be about me. What makes somebody a person of significance? Honestly. A little sparrow gets sick during the winter and freezes to death and it falls out of her nest in the middle of the forest. You guys know about those, right? You weep over the little birds. I'll be honest with you, I've never noticed it happening. Now, I've walked through the woods and I've seen a dead bird and I said, well, it must have died this year. Doesn't really affect me. You know what affects me? What moves my heart? Even though I'll tell you that bird moves the heart of God. Those people that I reflect and remember. The other day we were talking about childhood heroes, and I was talking about Audie Murphy. What made him such a famous guy? It wasn't that he was 6 foot tall, he was a short dude. He was a cotton farmer's kid from East Texas. Those are a dime a dozen. What made him remembered and celebrated is that when the Germans and their tanks were coming toward them in World War II, he jumps up with a machine gun and runs toward the fire to protect the guys behind him. The truth about it is, all the stories that we tell in life are about the people with great authority that use it to make a difference in our lives. In our culture today, millionaires are a dime a dozen. The truth about it is, when most of them die, their kids are going to get their money and they're going to be a dime a dozen, and then the kids are going to spend their money until all the money's gone. Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Mellon University, hospitals all over the Northwest or Northeast. There's a multimillionaire. He says, what's the use in having money if I can't give it to affect the lives of people? Can I ask you a question? Are you trying to control things with the authority that you have, or are you trying to use that authority to be the servant your family needs? If you were to chart out my family's history, fathers and grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers and great-great-great-grandfathers, Many of them are just blips on a piece of paper. But some, before service this morning, Gabriella came in. This little girl sitting in my lap, for those you don't know, and she says, "Gramps, can I sit with you during the songs this morning?" Well, baby, I'm singing backup with Majra. I'm sitting up on stage. She says, "I don't mind. I'll be still and I'll be quiet. Just let me sit with you." And I know go to churches where that's just not going to happen. Well, I'll just be honest with you. You just need to fire me now. The only time she got antsy is when you brought your son in. She goes, "I'm ready to go now." And you keep an eye on that. I don't want to be a blip on a screen. Do you? Do you want to be a footnote with a grave marker? Well, some guy, he was born now, lived now, da da da. You want to be more than a marker? It's pretty simple. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Decide, you know what, I'm going to follow God. And I'm going to be a servant. In other words, I'm going to use what God has given me to change the lives and make the lives of the people around me better, more secure, full of life. See it? People aren't going to remember you for generation after generation for your money or your hair or your wardrobe. It's the significance that you make in their life that makes an indelible impression. So if you want to follow me, Jesus said, deny yourself. Take up your cross. Not mine, yours. Who did God make you to be? What gifts did He give you? And do it. And I'll promise you this, God will never leave you. He'll never forsake you. He'll provide for you everything that you need. He'll give you the wisdom that you need. When you need to say something, He will give you the exact words to say. Why? Because He said He would. And He has the ability to hold up to His promises. When you find someone with great authority that uses that authority to lord it over people, as quick and as fast as you can, run. Because if not, they're going to make your life miserable. Follow God. Be a servant. Please stand as we worship with a closing song.